So today we're going to talk about classifying rational numbers. So if you do not have your classifying rational number notes up already, go ahead and pause the video and make sure you pull them up. They will be in your Google Classroom and they'll be right above or under this video. So again, make sure you pull up the classifying rational number notes and that you're filling this out as you are watching the video because I'm literally giving you the answers. So there are no excuses on not filling out the notes correctly. So if you go on to the next page of the notes, you have some sticky notes with some words and asking you for examples of the words. We're going to go over this. So counting numbers, if you think about it, are just numbers that you use to count on an everyday basis. So we're going to write in the text box. You just have to click underneath counting numbers and it will pop up. We're going to write numbers we use to count. They're just numbers you use to count. So under example of counting numbers, we're going to put some examples. So it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to put some dots so I can show that it goes on for a while. So I'm going to use my commas to separate my numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. They're just numbers that we use to count. Now, whole numbers are just like our counting numbers, except now we're including 0. So for whole numbers, we're going to say our counting numbers, comma, including 0, period. You want to make sure we still are using our pronunciation. I'm going to add a period to the other one. So we have our counting numbers, and we said that is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we have our whole numbers. So it's literally just our counting numbers, but we're adding 0 to it this time. So when we go under examples for whole numbers, I'm going to put 0, comma, 1, comma, 2, comma, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so those are examples of whole numbers. So if you don't have this in quite yet, go ahead and pause the video. Make sure you're putting these in as I go. And when you're done, unpause the video. Okay, so next we're going to go on to our integers. So I think by now we kind of all realize what an integer is. So we're going to say that integers are positive or negative, and I spelled it wrong. You guys ever see this little red squiggly line? You can right click to correct your spelling. But integers are positive or negative whole numbers. Okay, so we can include 0 as an integer even though it's just neutral, not positive or negative. But for examples, I'm going to put -3, -2 would be an example of an integer, -1 would be an example of an integer, 0, 1, 2, and 3 as well. So those are examples of integers. They're both positive and negative, and they include 0 as well. Right. Moving on to rational numbers. So you may have heard me mention this before. If not, it's okay. We are finally going to go over what rational numbers are. So rational numbers, we are going to say they are any number you can express as a decimal or a fraction. Okay, so rational numbers is any number you can express as a decimal or fraction. And what I mean by that, it's any number you can represent or put as a decimal or fraction or percent. I should add that in. Decimal fraction or percent. Okay, so any number you can express as a decimal, fraction, or percent. So example of rational numbers, we might want to put 1/2. 1/2, you can also do 0.5 or 0.50, which is equivalent or equal to 1/2. Or we could even say 50%. If you're looking for the percent sign, you click Shift and then click 5 or push 5, and that would be your percent sign. So we could have some rational numbers like that. 5 would be a rational number, but if you remember me telling you, we can represent our whole numbers or our integers also as a fraction. 5/1. That's the same thing as 5 divided by 1, which is also 5. Or we could do it 5.00 as a whole number or a rational number because we're representing it as a decimal. Or we can just straight up do 5%, or you know what? Let's do 500% would be the equivalent of that. Okay, so now we have some example of rational numbers. So if you need to, you can pause the video, take a minute and review what our counting numbers are, whole numbers, integers, and rational numbers. Okay, and after that, we're going to go on to the next slide, and we're going to start classifying. So we're going to go ahead and drag and drop these numbers all around the circles into its correct spot. Okay, so we're going to start with our whole numbers. So remember what whole numbers are. If we go back, it says that whole numbers are our counting numbers, including 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So basically just 0 and positive numbers. So I'm going to start on the left-hand side. Again, we're looking for only positive numbers for whole numbers and 0. So I see 0 here. I'm going to move that. I'm going to click and drop it in the light blue circle for whole numbers. We also have 25 is a positive whole number, 100. These are negative numbers, so it wouldn't be a whole number, but we also have 5. We have 25 again. Okay, so I think that's it for our whole numbers. Okay, so we put that in this light blue circle. Next, we're going to move on to integers. So if you remember, integers are positive and negative whole numbers, including 0. So how this Venn diagram works, it's a different type of Venn diagram, but how it works is the whole numbers are included in integers. So you can see that it's inside of the integer circle. That means these numbers are also part of the integer circle. Okay, so it's kind of engulfed in it. But now we know that the negative integers can only be classified as an integer. It's not a whole number. Okay, so I'm going to go and drag all of my negative integers in the yellow section. We can't put it in the blue section because whole numbers are only positive. Okay, but a whole number is also an integer. That's what the circle means. That's why it's inside of the yellow circle. I just really want to make that one clear. All right, and then moving on to rational numbers. So any positive or negative decimals or fractions would be in the rational numbers section. So we have our decimals, we have a negative decimal, we have a fraction, okay? And then you guys can go ahead and move the rest into our gray section. So remember, our whole numbers are also rational numbers. We can represent 5 as a decimal or a fraction or even a percent. Our integers, okay, our negative numbers, we can represent that also as a rational number. Okay, so that's why rational numbers on the outside, because we have integers on as part of it and whole numbers as part of it. That's why these are on the inside. Okay, so that's pretty much it for rational numbers. On the very, very last slide, if you need extra help, there's a video, again, explaining it, kind of walking you through it again. But the very last thing on slide 4 here that I want you to go through is I want you to tell me why are the circles within each other. So if you don't remember, go back just a few minutes and listen to what I'm saying. Remember, they are a part of each other. So integers can be rational numbers, but whole numbers cannot be integers. And then I want you to think, besides in math class, where else can you find rational numbers?